The council assembled abruptly, and the human ambassador was summoned. The Tawel Speaker of the House stood waiting as the members arrived. "It is my duty to report that the humans appear to be at war. They are seizing ships and orbitals without explanation." He looked out at the assembling crowd. "Would any of you like to provide a reason why so many of your ships decided to attack them? What the hell are you doing?" It was the Fey Junior Secretary for Environmental Engineering that spoke up. "Assembly honored members, humans have declared no war. If they had, I would be standing beside them in my ship. They have been attacked by a multitude of unrelated ships and stations." He nodded to the crowd. "I have no idea why the Assembly would find it strange that they had prepared a response. Normally, I find that attacking any human ends badly. Eventually. They are calling their warnings into clear space with no attempt at some covert attack. These are the actions of people suffering some unexpected aggression. I will await the human ambassador." He swept his gaze across the chamber. "And if anyone here has decided to attack the humans, I will summon my fleets in their defense, as will others." He sat. The Speaker for the House nodded. "Thank you. I feel that your current position as a junior secretary is a long way from your previous position as head of Galactic Intel for your people. I have high hopes that you will advance quickly." And with that observation, he moved to the many members that wished to explain that any ships from their worlds involved in these attacks must have been subverted or stolen. Others pledged their fleets to defend the humans. Some of those pledges may have been more pained than others. The human ambassador was still scrambling to deal with the incessant bullshit flowing from the XCC as he took his place. It was clear that everyone was waiting for him. Fuck. His primary mission was to oil the wheels for humanity and keep them out of the deep end. Not today. Still, nearly every human ambassador had to show teeth at some point, and it looked like today was his moment in the sun. The Speaker had been watching him like a hawk until he took his seat and immediately banged his rod. "I call on Ambassador Eating of Earth to answer for his people." He stood and regarded the council. "I speak for my people." The formal phrase made him the voice of all mankind until he retook his seat. It also meant that every human ship, planet, and orbital stood behind him. He smiled inside. Probably. In theory, actually he was just the sharp end of an argument that would last for years. The Xenos didn't need to know that. "Honored members, one of our people discovered a criminal conspiracy to bring forbidden materials throughout our space. An engineer notified us, and despite the many subsequent attacks on both herself and her ship, she is attempting to bring us the relevant intel. Our ships moved to find and defend the ship only for our people to be attacked by the most bizarre collection of civilian and military assets. Since my government felt it was unlikely that 70 systems had decided to go to war with us without mentioning it to anyone, we are attempting to contain the situation until a more plausible explanation is found." He paused and dropped diplomacy. Instead of sitting back down and surrendering to the Speaker, he continued, and his voice grew dark and his face turned to stone. "I speak for my people when I say that we wish to give our condolences to any and all the peoples caught in this strange web. We will attempt to recover your people and ships safely, but there is little mercy in space and less time. I urge you to recover your people if you can." With that cold warning, he sat down. The council heard the hard truth. The humans would defend this ship until the heat death of the universe. You are free to collect the debris we leave behind. In quiet corners, the assembly asked old questions. Humans. Peaceful, helpful, and occasionally terrifying. It was an itch no one wanted to scratch, just in case. This species had just been attacked by ships and orbitals from 70 different systems, and they were apologizing for the inevitable casualties. 70. Not worried, just sad. The human fleets, if they even had any, hadn't even bothered to assemble. In the dark, a few species canceled obscure plans and became thoughtful. 19 ships closed on the dangerous toys. The AI was never going to win prizes, but the odds were solidly in its favor. They entered the system and began scanning, searching for any hint of where the enemy ship was hiding. All reason had long ago been lost, overridden with the simple command to kill. Oscar found himself back in his own ship, his networks polished and finished well beyond his ability. The genie had left everything in fighting shape even as she had returned to her own hidden ship. Oscar decided he didn't like her. He called his engineer. "Patricia, I have resumed control." "She is gone." Patricia sat in the captain's cabin. Longnose insisted on sitting on the wrong side of the desk, although he seemed to have huge sympathy for her. Centifappy was less forgiving. "My seat, my knee." She yapped until Longnose sent her a message to shut up and sit down. Grumbling, the puppy took back her place on the cushion. Longnose leaned back. "Captain, my captain, what do you need from me?" Patricia had a plan. It was a bad plan, but it was slightly better than being left as a load of cooling gases in empty space. "I want you to take the bridge. I'll fight the ship from engineering, but I need someone that the crew trust, and let's be honest, things have gone to shit since I turned up. Our allies will need me running the systems, but I want you running the crew. Here's what I plan on doing." Jeannie listened in. She felt that she had earned the privilege, and also she didn't really care. She held her position beneath the swirling gas clouds and enjoyed the view. She would let the human take the first shots on this one, and Oscar could learn a thing or two. Still, Loki deserved some proper guns and treats. The first signs that Dangerous Toys was in trouble arrived in the system. The enemy ships arriving like someone had read a book on tactics but upside down and in crayon. They allowed themselves to be lit up by the reflected rads from the local sun. Idiots. Patricia was pissed as she pushed her ship deeper into the shadows. She was still going to lose the moment they found her. It just hurts to lose to stupid. They had guns and she didn't. She knew someone that did. "Oscar, get ready to run. I need us as close within the gas envelope as you can push us, then swing out and have shields ready. Prep your confetti now and get ready to fire. Shields on, chin up. We are going to beat these assholes. I'll be setting the flares as we go." She nodded at Longnose and called out, "Captain on the bridge." She saluted and gave up her chair. Longnose nodded and sat down. He hit the comms. "All crew, we are in a battle. I expect you to maintain your stations. Our engineer will deal with the problem." He nodded at Patricia. "Carry on." Patricia left him to deal with the wetware and got back to her proper job. Centofappy took back her rightful place at the captain's feet. Loki sniffed disapprovingly. The genie watched the game begin, listening as her sisters crushed the attacks on other worlds. Her people's marines were taking the entire network apart even as it dared to attack. She loved being human, but mostly just for the values. Organics were messy when a true AI could find a better path with the same principles. She thought it odd that she was capable of traveling to places undreamt of, and still some dead Greek had a point to make. Humanity was a big tent even if she felt that she was outside serving the drinks. Then someone started shooting and she grinned. Her humanity included the necessity of clever warriors. She began charging every weapon she had with a smile that would have terrified her friends if she had any. The 19 ships of the covert fleet that Insisi had created found her after hours of tedious searching. The humans were getting closer, the calls and threats growing. The AI suspected that no one was leaving this system alive. It didn't care as it only had one mission, a mission now long forgotten by the man that had demanded it. The ships began sending a barrage of plasma fire towards the hidden target, trying to force the Dangerous Toys from cover. The AI felt that the human had chosen well as the massive gas giant swept up much of its fire. It instructed its ships to close in. Patricia felt the first strikes hit her shields. Nothing to worry about just yet. "Oscar, you may begin." Oscar was trying to be brave. He didn't fear death. He didn't really understand it, but he knew it could happen to his ship, and his parents would be seriously disappointed if he lost the engineer. He spun up the rudimentary transporters that he had built on some of the many moons surrounding the planet and began hurling out chunks of rock at the enemy ships, thousands of them filling space with a tight grid designed to disrupt fire or formation from the enemy, or just smash them out of space if he got lucky. Patricia began triggering the flare attacks, hoping that the enemy had learned little from her first attack. Within the Insis fleet, Patricia had an unexpected ally. The crews that had missed their chance to abandon ship were physically ripping out any and all components they could find. None of them wanted a ticket on this suicide run, and they could all hear the incoming humans. All this over one crappy trading ship. The human malware Patricia had inflicted was carefully hiding the attacks from the AI, and even helpfully pointing out the most vulnerable targets to the disgruntled crew. Collateral damage. The station was about to begin collecting up the wreckage when the call came through. "Sir, the humans have a request. Apparently one of their species was on the ship and they wish to engage in some ceremony." The station commander didn't know much about humans. They came and left with the ships, rarely passing any time on his orbital. He sighed. "I have a lot to do. The damn ship blew in the middle of our shipping lanes. The dead are dead. Tell them to come back later." "Sir, there are more of them coming. They seem to have a strong opinion on this." They insist that they will clear the wreckage themselves. They are asking you to stand down our drones. Sir, they are not asking politely. Outside, one of his salvage drones suffered from a sudden disassembly event. Warning lights lit up his comms. Bloody engineers. He took the hint. Fine, but tell them to hurry up. His officer muted the comms and turned to the human standing over him. The wreck is yours. My condolences for your loss. Was this person important? The human slammed down his helmet without a word and went to leave. One of his companions leaned in and whispered, Mate, you are walking on thin ice right now. Stay the fuck out of our way until we are done. At that, he closed his helmet and followed the rest of the humans out. Ships arrived in silence, some collecting up the wreckage, others simply docking. Whatever or whoever delegated the tasks was not in the mood for talking. Humans now filled the station, filling the bars and hotels. None of them was willing to explain beyond a simple, "It's important. You'll see later." Nearly 300 humans assembled for the funeral. It had taken a week to recover the body, and those that had done it were gray-faced and silent on what they had found. Her coffin was made from all the small bits of wood that the crews had scraped up from 100 ships. She would go to her rest surrounded by a little bit of home. Her iron ring was laid on the lid beside her medals. Rumors had spread that the humans were burying some kind of hero. Some strange event was happening, and a bored galaxy tuned in to watch. Humanity simply broadcast the ceremony without comment. Its allies and old enemies watched with concern. A single human wearing only the rank of senior engineer took the podium. Welcome. Many of you met Senior Engineer Revel. Many of you heard the stories. I can tell you that most of them were true. Yes, she blew up a moon. Yes, she overthrew a government or two. Who hasn't? His voice grew stronger. Just over a month ago, we all got a call that ships had been subverted, that some creature was attempting to use our ships to bring the worst of the galaxy to our door. Revel was on one of those ships. The humans shifted, the anger apparent. The engineer continued. One of us found the threat and warned Earth. Those that think we are fools to be treated like cattle are dying right now, but the damage was done. We have recovered Revel and her work. Her ship was overtaken by these pirates, and she held her department alone for days. No comms, no captain, she fought off every attempt to stop her as she raced for human space. Every human watching could hear the pain. Every Xeno could see the birth of a legend. The engineer steadied his voice. Then someone took the AI, and her ship was lost to her. She watched as the ship itself killed off the crew as it bent itself to murder and suicide. To here, we stand in the last place that she defended. Every creature here owes her their life. He paused. She blew the engines. It looked like someone had struck the humans with a closed fist. The engineer stood silent for a long moment as the enormity of Revel's actions passed through the crowd. Many of us ask, what would we do? What is our limit? Today, we are here to see it, to see where the best of us go. We love our ships. They are powered by many things, but for Revel, it was always love. For her, space was just the beginning. I have here a request she made. Forgive me if it is scrawled on the back of a bar tab. We were drunk at the time. He cleared his throat. Tell them I loved every minute of it. When I go send me into the local sun, I don't want cold dirt anywhere near me. Play that song and have a free bar. Today we will honor that request. She ships out with me as her last post as engineer. I ask you to join me on the journey. Until then, I would ask you to join me in the song she requested. The galaxy heard her last request as the humans took ode to joy and turned it into a salute and a farewell. Across the human worlds, musicians and singers lifted the music until it echoed across the stars. The final ceremony was watched by billions as the tiny coffin was delivered into the silence of space to fall towards the local sun. From Earth and those worlds grateful for her work, the song rang out again as she disappeared on her final voyage. Much later, the engineer that had led the service was silently drinking his whiskey when the commander of the station approached. I just wanted to thank you. I never got to meet this engineer of yours. I'm sorry I didn't realize what she had done. Thank you all. The human waved his glass. She brought me back into space. Strange girl. Brains and money to burn, but she never would surrender. He looked at the Xeno. I think I'm going home. I think I'm done. You all keep killing the best of us. Now fuck off before I want to hit something. At that, he returned his cold stare to the bar and began planning a new mine, deep and far away from people. The pounding began on his bunker. Incease swore as he called for support and was met with silence. His allies, his property, was ignoring him. Something was in orbit and was apparently unchallenged, sending punishing weaponry directly at him. Fine, he had a plan for that too. He summoned his AI. Defend this installation. Nothing else on this rock is to be preserved. Burn the lot. His AI took a strange tone as the human malware it had absorbed finally took effect. It looked at him blankly and then laughed. A human voice spoke. We have taken your systems. We have corrupted, we have taken your ships. Please wait patiently until we corrupted your life. The walls began to fall as his guns went silent and then turned on him. He stood afraid to move in his own office as the pounding continued. It grew closer until finally the vast door, the finest he could commission, opened quietly in front of him to reveal a single human. It sniffed and looked around. Nice work. Perhaps you should have checked who built it. The human held no weapon, simply a suitcase of gray leather. It stepped forward as the guns in the bunker remained focused on Incisi and placed it on the desk. Incise hissed at him. Humans, you would kill me over a single ship. I have released hell on your people. Tell me how you will explain this to your allies. The human looked at him silently for a moment. It sighed. Incise, I am not here about that. Frankly, I don't care about your little smuggling operation. I am here because you killed Revel. Let me tell you a story. Long ago and far away our people were lost, trapped and doomed to remain so for eternity. A human, a species unknown to us at the time, was trying to defend her ship. She pulled our prison apart and dropped it on her enemies. She never suspected that we existed, and we never told her. He pulled a large blade from the air. But we thought she was worth protecting, and since she made a habit of pissing people off, we make house calls. The creature no longer looked human. We admit that there were very, very good reasons to imprison us, but Revel, well, she taught us manners. Now I have to go and fish her out of a son before it's too late. You, however, can take her place. I just need to fit you into this. He looked at the small briefcase on the desk. The knife began its work. The human wiped off the handle of the suitcase and made his way back to the ship. He smiled to himself. Being human was very entertaining, and Revel never stopped pissing people off. Time to go and recover her before it got too messy. Still, he had enjoyed the funeral. He piloted his ship away while humming Ode to Joy. Dangerous Toys, Part 19. Mars Orbital was busy with today's business as Xenos reacted to the human offensive against what was simply being called the Incisi War. Small squadrons of human ships were popping up all over the place and seizing ships, orbitals, and goods. It got difficult when they started doing what they called extraction on some very high-ranking officials. The XCC and the HDF were running at full tilt to crush this network, and from the outside it just looked like the humans had decided to smash and grab their way across the galaxy. What was becoming increasingly clear is that they weren't asking for permission. The director had called a meeting for all interested parties in the main conference hall, and a multitude of Xenos and media were waiting. Newcomers might wonder why this tired, gray-haired example was chosen to speak on behalf of the humans. As he took his place at the podium, they got a chance to find out. He looked at the swelling crowd, all set in that was, in his not very humble opinion, the finest room mankind had ever built. Above the transparent roof that soared some 300 meters was the planet, the red soil interspersed by the glinting light of the cities and the gleam as so many ships caught the sun on their descent. It was a celebration and a warning, just as intended. Hardwood and delicate stone carvings filled the room, furniture that was designed and presented to every new species that was permitted to visit. The only jarring note was the 2 human Marines that held a permanent station at the door. They wore full, unadorned armor and carried the complete array of weapons of the real thing. Only vague rumors and some highly classified reports existed for the Xenos to read, but since they were the sharp end of human diplomacy, it made sense to see them here. He thought so anyway, and it was his call. Welcome all. I have a lot to get through, so please leave your questions until the end. I'm not going anywhere, so take your time. Firstly, would like to address the question of who exactly we are fighting. A criminal network based from Central Worlds 12.789.0845 has apparently flourished to the extent that it reached into human space. It is essentially a smuggling service with a surprising military capacity. It has been suborning smaller systems and using their forces as mercenaries and enforcers. The creature responsible for this network was apparently a logistics officer at some point. He flashed an image of an early picture of Incisi as a young officer, and that is all we know about his beginnings. He flashed up pictures of an office. We know even less about his end. Forensics report that he died here, By what agency or people we frankly don't know, but his blood coated several walls and the bunker began singing Ode to Joy when we arrived. Someone obviously took offense at his actions regarding one of our engineers that was sadly killed in his attack. All we know is that it is multidimensional and carries a grudge. Regardless of that, his AI-controlled ships have attacked us in 80 systems so far. We are dealing with the problem. He took a pause as the Xenos reacted. One of the press pit ignored his early statement and called out, "Are you telling us that this Incise was killed by one of your human ghosts? I find that hard to believe." The director had felt this might surface. Many Xenos were fascinated by the old human beliefs in an afterlife. No. He was not killed by any human agency, alive or dead. Something walked into his bunker and slaughtered him. If we are reading the science correctly, it was done in a manner that would attract several hundred criminal charges. Also, we do not have the capacity to do this. He pulled up an image. A large blade was clearly embedded in the desk. It was also very clearly not. Human Marines lifted the desk out of position and the blade continued to cut through the surface. They attempted to grab the knife, but it was intangible to human hands. Feel free to ask your scientists to examine the data. I can tell you now that we don't have a clue. The Xenos reacted to that. If the humans couldn't figure it out and were willing to admit it, this was going to take a while. Any thoughts of fraud fell away. The humans' pride in their science wouldn't permit its corruption over the death of a criminal, especially one that they would have cheerfully and publicly shot in the head for causing so much mayhem in their worlds. To return to the main issue, one of our people is underway with further intel. At this point, it is probably unnecessary, as her first reports were sufficient to begin to untangle this mess. She is, however, still out there being hunted by the Incise AI-driven fleets. I hope to bring you better news shortly. All those involved in this parasitic network will be brought to account and this evil crushed. We apologize for the inconvenience. Any questions? One of Earth's allies had been prepped beforehand. The Fey ambassador to Earth stood, "Director, is this a war? What are you planning to do with all these ships and people caught up in this action?" The director nodded. "Good questions. It is a war in the sense that we face an enemy with its own fleets, its own orbital assets and personnel. In more general terms, we regard this as a policing action. We have no territorial or political ambitions. We simply wish to crush a criminal enterprise that has declared us an enemy because they failed to kill the human that unveiled it. As to those captured, we are seeking a comprehensive picture of those that are involved. They may face our legal system or their local one. If we feel that there are entrenched interests protecting this network, we will ban all trade and travel with humanity. We are not your police, but we will protect our worlds and ships. To be clear, these criminals were carrying slaver AI amongst other evils. We will not permit that." And there it sat. The humans never forgave slavery even of AI. They would pull all trade and ensure that their allies did the same. Ban all engineers and close their orbitals to anyone they suspected was involved. No doubt there would be other unacknowledged actions. Essentially, this was the message to all the Xenos and press. Clean this shit up or we will. Good luck getting a ship if the humans wouldn't touch it. Superstition alone would regard them as cursed, probably with good reason. Even neutral systems would ban them in case they exploded. One of the newest ambassadors stood unexpectedly. "Director, you spoke of the missing ship. That is one of ours. What efforts are being made to recover them safely? The ship is at the forefront of our first contact with humanity and the Canine Alliance, and my people are looking for news." The director glanced at his screen. The ambassador Nusunandrigras. Ah, the catnip guy. "Ambassador, welcome to Mars Orbital. If your schedule permits, I will meet you immediately after this meeting with our HDF delegate, and we will brief you. Please assure your people that every effort will be expended to secure your people." His voice dropped slightly. "And our dogs." He had personally sent Centifapi our there and approved locust travel. If they were hurt, he would also personally ensure the destruction of whoever had dared harm them. For the rest of the audience, it was split between those that had ignored the whole human symbiote story and were now reassessing the political power involved, and those that knew just how far the humans would go to protect their pets. No wonder Incise had been cut down by some supernatural entity. It probably did him a favor if he had attacked the humans' dogs. The director took a few more questions and then left the Xenos to themselves. The two Marines moved to Ambassador Nusunandrigras and waited to escort him to the private meeting. A few of the Xenos murmured to each other, and the conclusion was clear. The galaxy would stay out of the way and ensure their own fleets were clear. The director had done an excellent job of laying out the consequences of fucking with the human race and the benefits of playing nice. Patrika didn't particularly feel like a diplomatic triumph. She felt like a sacrificial offering to the gods. If Loki knew that fleets were flying from many quarters to defend him, well, he wouldn't have expected anything less. Centifapi was sleeping contentedly on her captain's lap. Plasma fire continued to strike the shields. Oscar, begin our descent. We will go and sit on the fucking genie if she won't respond. Fire the flares and follow the patterns you so nicely built. Now. The genie was watching the enemy approach under fire from Oscar. Trust a human to start throwing rocks around, although she appreciated the elegant simplicity. So far, the ship seemed fine. Shields were solid. Frankly, for a 20-to-1 attack, the bad guys weren't really making an impression. She had expected someone to die by now. She finished up her tea just in time for the flare attacks to begin. To her, they looked like a beautiful fireworks display. Some of them were so clever that she had to drop a dozen sensors to prevent infection. The engineer was good. Time to go to work.